So thanks everyone, and hello. Thank you for joining us today. Hope everyone is doing well. Our topic for today's webinar will be preparing for a hybrid workplace. We'll kick things off by just introducing our speakers today. Starting with myself, I'm Yoni Ron, Regional Director of Business Development for Genea, covering the East Coast. Next, we have Mike Maxenti, co-founder and head of access control at Genea. And finally, Christine Doan, Senior Human Resources Director at Genea. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Genea, I'll kick things off by just giving you a bit of background on who we are and what we do. So Genea, in a nutshell, is a cloud-based SaaS platform. We're focused on smart building technology for the commercial real estate industry with a very heavy emphasis on automating building operations. We've grown into well over 250 million square feet and are implemented in nearly 1,600 buildings. In the center of your screen, actually, are some of our customers that we currently work with, including JLL, Nuveen, and Shorenstein. Actually, when you think of the top 25 commercial real estate owners and operators in the United States, we work with 22 of them. We also work with some of the leading enterprise customers like TransferWise, Zero, and Headspace. And even more exciting than our growth has been our ability to retain our customers. We have over 99% customer retention and a 75 net promoter score, which puts us above even the likes of Apple. So moving along, what is it exactly that we do? Our flagship product is a overtime HVAC automation tool, which essentially allows an authorized tenant to make a request for after hours HVAC using any web-enabled device. We're actually connected directly to the building automation system and are able to remotely activate the appropriate points in your system so that HVAC can be delivered to the tenant suite. Simultaneously, our system will automatically log that request for billing purposes. From there, we can push the overtime HVAC charges to either your work order system or format a CSV file that can be easily uploaded to any accounting software, MRI, Yardi, JD Edwards. Part of our discussion this afternoon actually is going to focus on how to leverage the same technology to provide your tenants with on-demand HVAC services to save on energy expenses. Parallel to our overtime HVAC program, we have an automated sub-meter reading and billing solution which supports both manual and network meters. For the standalone manual meters, we have an app that helps streamline the recollection process and eliminates the need for an engineer to record those meter readings on a clipboard. For the networked infrastructures, we're able to connect to your existing meter data recorder, be it a BMS or any other meter data collection device. Our system will remotely pull the data to our platform so we can generate monthly tenant invoice statements. One of the biggest labor-saving features to our sub-meter solution is that all the tenant utility bill backs can be uploaded to your accounting system without the need of any manual entry. Last but certainly not least, in December of 2019, Genea acquired a fully integrated cloud-based access control system. It's fully loaded platform that supports all your security management needs, including access control, video management, and touchless visitor access as well. The balance of the discussion today is actually going to focus on how our platform helps support bringing tenants, employees, and their guests back to the office safely and efficiently. That's a brief summary of our smart building technology suite. We'll move on now to go over our agenda for today. And now that the pandemic is slowly in our rear view and the world has begun to reopen, we will start today's webinar off by reviewing the changing environment in the office and how to optimize your HVAC usage to take advantage of energy saving opportunities. We'll also go over access control protocols and some tools available to help you accommodate COVID capacity mandates so you can welcome your tenants and employees back to their workplaces safely. Next, we'll cover the variables that are contributing to new employee demands and how tools like SafeWorkplace can help you manage the hybrid working environment. And from there, we'll dig into just how Genea can help. And with that, let's jump into why we're here today. Christine?
Thanks, Yoni. So let's talk a little bit about why we're here. We all know that the office environment is changing. As we can remember, prior to COVID, just a year and a half ago, most of our companies required employees to work in the office 100% of the time. If you weren't sitting at your desk, it was thought that you weren't working. We didn't think that people could work from home or work remote successfully. So when COVID hit and we all had to suddenly send our employees home for safety reasons, I remember it being very jarring as an HR professional, thinking that there was going to be a lack of productivity and that employees were going to be working 100% of the time remote was going to be a concern. But over the past 14 months, we've really seen that employees and employers have learned that productivity didn't necessarily take a hit. In fact, some companies have seen their productivity increase. So, as we look forward, employees are saying that they don't necessarily want to return to the office 100% of the time as it was pre pandemic. There was a large study from PwC in January. You see some of the statistics on your screen. It showed that over half of the employees want to work remote at least 3 days a week post pandemic. Where on the flip side, 58% of executives think that employees should work in the office 3 or more days a week. So there's definitely a discrepancy here. It will take time to see how things shake out, but one thing that's agreed upon by both leaders and employees is that the office is going to function different moving forward. So rather than having to come into the office and sit at your desk to do your work, there might be some more flexibility to do some work remote. However, there is a common belief and feeling within our employees, our executives, and our office tenants that there is a desire to come back into the office, but it's going to be reimagined. It's going to be a place for collaboration, team building, potentially on demand, coming in for a meeting, working remote the rest of the day. So rather than a traditional 8 to 5, some flexible work schedules, etc. So one thing is clear, post-pandemic, the office is going to look different for our employees. It's going to be more clear as things continue to open up and people begin to return to the office even more, exactly what that's going to look like. But we do know it's going to be different. And so today we're going to talk about Genea's products and how we can help support you with the changing office environment.
Thanks, Christine. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out and what the new office norm will be. We'll actually circle back to this subject in a bit. In the meantime, let's pivot to how buildings can start thinking about energy savings while tenants are still working remotely and spaces remain mostly unoccupied. So jumping right into it, prior to Genea, standard practice for tenants to receive unscheduled HVAC would require someone to enter the HVAC request into a work order system. From there, the property team would usually go through a typical approval process to confirm the charges and then dispatch an engineer to manually program the BMS so tenants would receive the air. Today, there's a much better solution where tenants can make the request via either an app or our website. There's a tremendous amount of benefits both to the tenant and property management teams, and that everything is automated downstream from submitting the request. Programming the BMS and even generating an invoice for after hours HVAC charges no longer require any manual processes. Tenants appreciate this amenity because they no longer need to schedule air in advance, but rather when they actually need it. Similarly, a lot of the owners out there have pivoted to leveraging our software to bring their buildings on demand during lease hours. What do I mean by this? They simply adopt an after hours posture 24/7 and have tenants actually self-serve HVAC using our smartphone app. This allows the property to only turn on the occupied floors and run the building more efficiently while tenants continue to work remotely and their spaces remain mostly unoccupied. Assuming there are tenants who come in on a regular cadence, tenants also have the ability to schedule recurring requests to ensure the space is at a comfortable temperature by the time they arrive. So let's take a look at a sample set of buildings that opted to go fully on demand with Genea. So as lockdowns began and many of our clients realized that, at least in the short term, they could convert their entire tenant HVAC schedule to a on-demand model and reduce HVAC system operating time and expense. So in Q2 of 2020, we took a sample of 5 client buildings in Genea's portfolio and monitored the usage for 3 months. What we ended up seeing was that the tenants requested on-demand HVAC for only 26% of what had been normal operating floor hours. And despite running at a much lower capacity, every tenant got exactly as much climate-controlled air as they required, all without any manual effort from the building staff. So our next question was, did optimizing HVAC schedules contribute to any actual cost savings? And our findings were that indeed conserving energy by shutting off HVAC service to empty floors did contribute to energy savings. In fact, on-demand buildings had roughly double the savings when compared to control buildings. And control buildings, for the purposes of this discussion, are assets that kept their regular HVAC schedule. So observing these patterns make for a very compelling argument to start thinking about how not only to conserve energy to accommodate tenant occupancy, but also how to take advantage of some of these cost savings as an owner associated with this level of optimization. So a lot of people typically at this point ask us, well, how does it work? It's actually pretty simple. An authorized tenant can request HVAC via any web-enabled device or our website. They enter the date and number of hours they want to receive HVAC. A signal is sent into our device that is connected directly to the building automation system. We override what's called an occupancy point in the building automation system at a higher priority than the building schedule, taking into consideration all the normal functions of the BMS and of course the mechanical setup, including minimum load requirements to ensure the equipment is running properly. From there, once the request is fulfilled, meaning the requested number of hours has been delivered to the tenant suite, the point is automatically released and the building schedule takes over again. The good news here is that we are building automation agnostic, and so we can work with almost any building regardless of the size. Hopefully this gives you some insight into how we can potentially run your building more efficiently, take advantage of some energy savings and support sustainability initiatives as well. I'll kick it over to Mike now to run through the second part of our discussion, access control.
Great, thanks, Yoni.
You're welcome.
So when it comes to access control, there's a couple of key considerations that a lot of our customers are taking into account as they're looking to reopen offices and welcome back employees. And from our experience, we've got customers all over the world. So we've got customers in Israel and Australia and all over North America and United States. And each one has different considerations in terms of how they're letting employees back in. But I think there's a couple of common themes that we want to highlight for our customers today and for you guys. So one of the key aspects of our platform that's really helpful during the pandemic that came out of this sort of happenstance, right, is that we have this touchless access journey across every point of the access control system. So everything from credentialing all the way through the parking gates, the turnstiles, elevators, and then ultimately getting an employee to their office door. We've been doing touchless access for years, and that was one of the side benefits of embracing mobile from day one. So. But a lot of our customers are looking to enable this touchless access journey across all their points for tenants and employees going forward. So how do we enable this, right? So it really comes down to a platform approach. So when you're looking at the Genea system overall, right? So we start with the access control system as this platform. That way we can control all the access points, and then we enable you to have a mobile credential for your employees or for your tenants. We then loop in our visitor management system, or we integrate with our visitor management partners like ProxyClick or Envoy to deliver a touchless guest experience as well. So you could invite a guest, they can get issued a QR code through our platform or through one of our partner platforms. And then that QR code can be used for access through a turnstile, a parking gate, an elevator, quickly and easily. So again, you're having a pre-registration process so that a person can answer some health questions before they ever show up on site. They can get issued a touchless credential that they can use to access the office once they arrive. So you have this touchless experience for not just the tenants or the employees, but also their guests. And then we can also do things like video integration. So that's always helpful when you're talking about creating this holistic security approach, not just having 3 different systems for your security environment, but having one platform to manage it all. And then another great thing about our product is that you get 24/7 direct support from our team, no matter where you are. So if you're opening a building in Sydney, Australia, or in downtown Chicago, you're going to get the same product with the same service and support levels that you expect everywhere else around the world. It's something that's very unique to us. And I mentioned mobile access before, but this is a key aspect of welcoming people back to a hybrid work environment, as Christine was talking about. When you're talking about having offices around the globe or around the country, and you need to be able to provision someone access quickly and easily, the mobile credential is the best way to do that, because you can hit one button and I can issue a key to someone in our New York office. I don't have to worry about them showing up and getting a physical card. It's just one button, they download the app and they're good to go. Of course, this is touchless, so it has that added a health benefit to it. But really, when we're talking about post-pandemic world, we think that the convenience and security around the mobile credential is really what's going to enable customers to have that hybrid work experience. So we're doing this with a lot of our customers who are transitioning from physical keys to a now mobile cloud-based environment. And it's all centered around that mobile access experience. So, beyond just mobile access, we built a couple purpose-built features in our platform to react to the pandemic and then the changing work environment post-pandemic. So the first one is SafeWorkplace. Now, SafeWorkplace is centered around a few core concepts, right? We wanted to be able to track and manage capacity limits. So this has obvious health benefits, right? But then the other benefit is that as companies are changing the way that that they do hotel desks in their office, or they change the physical layout of the office, you need to be able to restrict the overall capacity so that you have enough resources for the people coming in for the day to work at the office. So there's a lot of benefits for our SafeWorkplace experience beyond just the health implications. But we built this around a custom questionnaire and approval workflow. So in any employee's app or any tenant's app, they can simply open it up. They'll have a questionnaire that they can fill out. And once they go through the questionnaire, then their access will be approved for the time period that they request, if there's a resource available for them, like a desk, or they haven't reached capacity at that location. The third thing is we introduced contact tracing. So one of the great things about having both visitor management and access control on the same platform is that we can do contact tracing across your employees and the guests. So if someone unfortunately tests positive, you can go into our contact tracing tool, and then it'll query every single person that was on site between guests and tenants during that time period that the person who was diagnosed was on site. So that's a really helpful benefit when you're talking about bringing those two systems into the same platform. And last but not least, we built a number of integrations with temperature scanners. So there's a lot of different ways that we're seeing customers deploy these today. Everything from using a facial recognition with a temperature scanner application to actually activate employee badges for the day once they've been scanned by that device, all the way to just having a simple temperature scan with a card reader next to it. So if you're looking at deploying a temperature scanner, there's a lot of different ways that can come to fruition. So reach out to us. We're happy to help design a system that suits what you're looking to do. Beyond SafeWorkplace, we improved our visitor management system. So Genea has always had a visitor management solution, but it was all centered around an iPad that people would go in and touch and sign in on. We, of course, during the pandemic, had to shift our strategy to react to the realities of the pandemic. So the first thing that we did was create this pre-registration concept, where if I'm an employee and I have a guest coming to the office, I can send them an invite through the app, and then the guest is going to receive a pre-registration form that is created by HR or security for our company. Then they fill out that form, they answer the questions, and then they're issued a touchless QR code that they can use for access to the facility. So it really takes care of that pre-registration where it happens all offsite. You're not jamming up a lobby with a bunch of people. They're doing all the registration offsite, so it's quick and easy for them to get it in and out, and they can answer health questions before they ever show up on site. So if they are considered an at-risk person that through our questionnaire, then they would be denied access before they ever show up on site. So that's a key aspect of this. But it's also relevant post-pandemic, because in a post-pandemic world, we still want to get people in and out efficiently, and that's where the pre-registration comes in, and then also having that touchless credential. So inviting a guest is quick and easy. You can do it through our mobile app. You can do it through our web app. Again, the idea is that if you're using the Genea products, they should be quick and easy to use. We hope that we're maintaining that across the entire portfolio of features. You also have some advanced features within that, like customized form fills, document signing. We have specialized COVID questions that you can integrate, and then we also integrate with turnstiles and elevators. So you can integrate this across all of your access points. And then the same experience applies to SafeWorkplace. So whether you're using a physical card or a mobile key on your phone, you can still engage with the SafeWorkplace platform to answer those health questions before you ever show up on site. But to give you guys some context about how we're using this, I want to bring in Christine to talk about how Genea is using SafeWorkplace at our offices.
Thanks, Mike. So we implemented SafeWorkplace a few months ago for 3 of our offices. We require that all employees, like Mike said, answer 4 pre-screening questions prior to gaining access to the office. We just use the recommended questions from the CDC. Recently, as the CDC just has updated their guidelines on quarantine requirements for people who have been fully vaccinated, we were really easily able to update those questions in just a matter of seconds on the app, so that if someone's been vaccinated, they know how to answer the questions. We don't actually ask people in the questions if they've been vaccinated, but we ask people if they've had exposure, and then we have an asterisk that if you've had exposure but you're fully vaccinated, according to CDC recommendations, you can answer no to this question, so they're still given access. Let's see, we make sure that people answer the questions correctly to get access to the office. So unless they've answered those questions, they can't get access. Sometimes, you're on your way to work and you forget and you're trying to get in, and it won't let you in until you answer those questions. It just takes maybe 10 seconds to go through that process. So it's super easy for our employees. In addition to the pre-screening questions, we've been really fortunate that we haven't had a large amount of employees who have been negatively affected by COVID or had known exposure. But when we do have an employee who tests positive or who has had exposure, we've been able to go into the SafeWorkplace app. We run reports to see exactly when they were in the office last. Prior to using an access control system and SafeWorkplace, it's almost like an honor system. When were you in the office last? But now we're able to run that report and know exactly when they were in the office. We can filter that report by what door they used, so we know exactly where they were. We can see who else went through that door and who was there at that time. So we know exactly who was around that we would need to notify of a potential exposure in the workplace. So it takes out a lot of the guessing, and it protects us as an employer that we're really doing our due diligence, and it also protects our employees so that we make sure that we notified the correct people of any potential exposure. Mike had mentioned the capacity limit. So we haven't turned this on yet, but there is a feature once we fully open our offices that we can limit the number of people that come in per day. So if someone wants to come in, they would fill out the questionnaire, but when we set the limit to 10% of occupancy or 50%, whatever it is, then if they try to check in, but that capacity limit is met, they won't be given access. If someone leaves, then it opens a spot and then they can come in. So it just helps us not have to manage that on an individual basis or a manual basis, which is really nice. When we set up SafeWorkplace, it was really easy to use and set up. It really only took us a couple short meetings to talk through what our communication plans were, what questions we were going to ask on the front end of our employees, and how we were going to set up the tool in the back end. It was really user-friendly. We rolled it out. Our employees embraced it. We were kind of braced for what types of questions are we going to get asked? Is it going to not let people in, but there were really no issues. There were no questions from our employees. It was a super seamless integration into our regular process. People were able to get into the office after answering the question successfully. We had a couple people who accidentally answered them incorrectly, so it's really easy to override those answers and let them answer again if they make a mistake. In fact, I was away from my computer one day. Someone contacted me, said they weren't able to get into the office because they answered the questions incorrectly. I was able to go onto the mobile device, into the app, and let them in and unlock their account. So super, super easy and very user-friendly, both from the employee and the administrative side. Let's see. So, there's a lot of changing legislation and requirements that are put on our HR teams and our office managers. We see it daily, new requirements coming out from the CDC or from OSHA, or announcements that there's going to be new requirements. So Safe Workplace really makes it easy for us to be compliant with what's going on and what's required of us as an employer, with asking these pre-screening questions, being integrated with the temperature scanners, and really being able to track that potential exposure in the workplace. So it's been a great tool for us that we've been using successfully.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks, Mike. Definitely covered a lot of important facets of how to think about the post-pandemic office environment. Let's kick it over to the audience and see if there are any questions we can help answer. If anybody does have a question, feel free to either raise your hand or submit it in the chat in the Q&A. We're happy to have our experts kind of talk through any of the things that you're thinking about internally now. Well, okie doke. If there aren't any questions, I appreciate everybody taking the time, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the day. We'll send this pre-recorded out to everybody's email, and we'll look forward to following up. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, Yoni. Thanks, Christine.
Thanks, guys.